Yo, welcome to Mondays with Vish on Friday. It's Friday, but it's always Monday around here. We're a little discombobulated. I don't have my microphone. He doesn't have his microphone, but it doesn't matter. It's not Monday. We have a lot to talk about. The Niners have made their initial moves. The first week is over, and now we have to sort of uh, assess it. But before we get to that, Vish, I want you to take the viewers through a fun timeline. Like, take us back through this Jimmy Garoppolo saga because this had some epic twists and turns the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the theme of our show usually on Mondays is you get like all worked up and emotional, and I'm usually, I wouldn't say a little more sensible, but maybe a little more calm, collected, and reserved
Absolutely.
when we come on here. Today, I think I'm the one that's about to blow a gasket. My hair looks like it's about to blow, and I got this little Napoleon Dynamite flow going on, and I'm that's basically it sums up how I feel because the timeline of the Jimmy Garoppolo situation is very interesting to me, and I think it's very important to have this discussion. And I think here's the thing. I think we all knew coming into this offseason that there were two dominoes that had to fall before Jimmy Garoppolo. I think everybody agreed once Aaron Rodgers made his decision, once Russell Wilson made his decision, only would there be clarity on what was going to happen with Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Well, all of
That
that
was chapter
happened,
one. That was
right?
chapter one. Yeah. Yes. All that
So
happened.
all of that happened right within a week, and we got to go through this, right? So Aaron Rodgers was decided he was going to come back to the Packers. Broncos insiders reported that Denver was aware of this for 2 weeks, which is why they were working on the Russell Wilson deal, which got announced very shortly after Aaron Rodgers. Then the Carson Wentz deal got announced, and all of this was before the Friday that every single person knew, not us, because that information was not relayed to the public, or maybe it was, but it wasn't really talked about in sports parlors, but or sports parlor talk. But generally, that the Deshaun Watson grand jury decision would happen that Friday. And I think that the 49ers would have been aware that if Deshaun Watson is exonerated, then he was going to be a big player and totally change the quarterback market. I think Indianapolis was very aware of it because they were able to trade a diminishing asset before that and be able to get the return and move on with Carson Wentz. And during that time period, Middlecoff
So
had the report that
you're saying Indianapolis was smart to trade Carson Wentz before the Watson verdict came out.
yes,
Just
yes,
explain that real quick. Explain that real
because
quick.
because
Yes.
that's what doesn't make sense to me, right? And
Yes.
everybody says, "Oh, the Niners could have had offers on the table," blah blah blah. This is a giant game of quarterback musical chairs right now.
Yes.
Rodgers got his seat.
Mhm.
Russell Wilson got his seat. Indianapolis would be in the same exact situation as the 49ers today on unloading Wentz
Yes.
if they didn't trade him before Watson, unless Washington was just solely stuck on no Watson. Because the way I see it, if now Watson has a chance of going to Atlanta, isn't every single team that was possibly going to trade for Carson Wentz or going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, wouldn't they want Matt Ryan first? Like
Yes.
the Colts, you go to
Yes.
Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan makes you a genuinely better team than
Right.
Carson
And
Wentz.
3 weeks ago,
Garoppolo,
no one really fathomed that Matt Ryan would be available, but things happen. Things
right?
happen. You
So
can't
so
predict it all. Yeah. Yeah.
right, and so I thought Indianapolis seized their opportunity in that window because they knew at that point Wentz's value would be probably the highest it would be, and they were able to get 2 third-round picks, and they were also able to offload his contract. And here we are, and it's funny because a
Hold on,
lot of
I
people
cut you
don't.
off. I cut you off. You were talking about like you were just getting to the point where the rumor came out the Niners had a second round pick offer
Right,
on the
and
table.
the
Yeah.
Middlecoff reported it, right?
Yeah.
He said that he got a text. He didn't
Yeah.
even say it like a report. He said
Right.
explicitly, "I got a text that they're saying there's a 2 on
Yeah.
the table for Garoppolo." Well, it looks like that move wasn't made. Right now, I think what's worrying me and what should worry a lot of people, right? Because for me, what annoys me is that I thought $25.5 million was the single most valuable thing about unloading Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason.
I agree.
Not a second round pick that they were going to get for him, not which I don't think they're going to get for him, not the third or fourth or fifth round pick. It was the $25.5 million, an opportunity to open up cap space for a team that has been on the precipice of winning the Super Bowl 2 out of the last 3 years. You know, a team that was a couple plays in 2019 from winning the Super Bowl, a couple plays from going to the Super Bowl last year.
The idea that this stacked team is 1 third-round rookie away from being a Super Bowl, it's like, what are you talking about?
It doesn't make sense.
You're beyond
and
that.
I don't even understand that, because we just saw what happens. This team is way too loaded for rookies to come in and just contribute year one and play unless they're truly exceptional. Like Aaron Banks and Trey Sermon, what did they do last year? And I don't even think it's an indictment of either of them. This team is really stacked. This coaching staff does an incredible job with player development. They get a lot of guys ready to go. And there's a lot of guys that have been in this system for multiple years who have become contributors. Oh, don't get me started on Business 101. I responded to Business 101 earlier today.
What Vish is doing right now is refuting the Business 101 theory. He's explaining how the 49ers doing nothing has actually cost them, and probably keep going, Vish. Now, 49ers daddy, he's addressing what he said is, Vish and Grant, have you both taken Business 101? Because Jimmy is still on the roster and it doesn't make sense.
No, he's making a joke.
I know he's making a joke. I know he's making a joke, but he's also
you know what he's talking about.
Okay, but he's also explaining why that line of thinking is bogus. So keep going.
Yeah, it is bogus because, again, $25.5 million for a historically aggressive franchise, which the 49ers have been under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, right? The idea that they're conservative is totally wrong. The thing is that a lot of their moves haven't panned out, but they did make Jet McKinnon a top 5 running back in terms of money paid. They did pay Weston Richburg. They did pay Quan Alexander. They did pay Trent Williams. They did pay Kyle Juszczyk. They did pull off a massive sign and trade for D Ford. So this team
they made Jimmy the highest paid player in the league for a minute. Did they not?
Yeah. They did. So I mean, I've kind of gotten, it's been a little bit of a mix and match because of my trains of thoughts are just going everywhere. But the point to me is that I thought that $25.5 million was going to be worth more than the pick. The Niners don't seem to view it that way. And I don't understand why people aren't up in arms. Here we are at the start of the new league year, and the Niners' highest paid player is a guy that we all are assuming will not be on this roster before training camp. Does that make sense? Someone please make that make sense to me. A guy who's not going to be on this roster is getting paid 12.7% of their cap.
Yes.
12.7% of their cap. And I don't understand why people are so casual about it, really, because honestly,
what they would say is they would be like, well, we're already the best team in the league. That's what I feel like. That's the only thing you could say. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
And it goes back to, right, we're talking about a team that was 2 to 3 plays from getting to the Super Bowl last year and winning the Super Bowl in 2019. The NFL is a win now league. The 49ers have built a Super Bowl caliber roster. There is no guarantee this is a Super Bowl caliber roster 2 years later. You know why I know that? Because my teenage years were ruined by the fact that I thought the Niners built a long-term juggernaut in 2012 when they went to the Super Bowl and lost. You had Colin Kaepernick looking like a star. You had Aldon Smith, who just came off a season with 19.5 sacks. Navarro Bowman looked like the best young linebacker in the league. And next thing you know, Patrick Willis is retiring at 30 because he has a toe injury. Next thing you know, Navarro Bowman has a terrible knee injury at Seattle. Aldon Smith's life falls apart. And they're the worst team in the NFL in a span of 3 years. So the NFL is a win-now league, which is why Buffalo is going all in. They're getting Von Miller. They're trying to go win this year. The Raiders, who don't even have that good of a roster, are trying to go all in because they think they have this window of opportunity with Derek Carr and Max Crosby, and they're getting Devontae Adams. It is a win-now league. And the Niners, I'm not saying, you just go throw money at some random guy, but there are players available in this free agency that would put the Niners over the top. I kept suggesting the name Von Miller. To me, Von Miller is the kind of player 3rd and 7 at Green Bay, 3rd and 7 at Tampa Bay, 3rd and 7 at the Rams. That's a player that makes a difference on that down. It could be the difference between winning and losing. A lot of people are okay with the massive sign and trade for D Ford because D Ford was that player in 2019.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees that no matter what, D Ford helped that team go to the Super Bowl because he was that kind of player. He was a game changer. Richard Sherman was a game changer in 2019. So they just are one veteran game-changing player to me away from the Super Bowl. I mean, we're all assuming Trey Lance pans out. So we're all under that assumption, We look at Deebo Samuel, superstar. Fred Warner, superstar. Nick Bosa, superstar. Trent Williams, superstar. And the Niners, here they are, and they had an opportunity to clear $25.5 million and really make that move. And they're sitting here, sitting petty, or sitting comfortable, excuse me, not petty, sitting pretty, with Jimmy Garoppolo still on this roster. And you know why I'm really amped up and really worried? Because I'm watching this Watson situation unfold. I'm watching the fact that if he goes to Atlanta and Matt Ryan becomes available, there is a scenario that we might be sitting here and saying, what is the option for Jimmy Garoppolo? And everybody knows that the 49ers will not go into this offseason with Garoppolo. So what's the leverage? So are you telling me that the restructures, the holding on to him was all to get a day 3 pick? Because if it does, that's a criminal botching of this situation, in my opinion. Because whatever you want to say about Garoppolo, he is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and that asset has value. And they won't be getting the maximized value because, again, Middlecoff said they were offered a second in that,
Timeline.
nice window
And they missed it.
between Rodgers, Russ, and Watson, right? So they
Yes.
missed that opportunity. And if you know that they can't keep him on the roster, if you're the Colts and you miss out on Matt Ryan, just wait him out.
Okay. So let me ask about that directly. What would Matt Ryan going to Indianapolis mean for the 49ers? Like, how bad would that be?
Well,
Isaiah
it
Gill
would
says
be
trade
bad,
area.
right? It would
Yes.
be bad. It would be bad. It would be bad because I think Cleveland is the other place that people are talking about, but then all the Browns reporters came out and said that Cleveland will not oblige to Baker Mayfield's trade request. And if Cleveland doesn't do that, well, my reading of that situation, excuse me, is that Cleveland would oblige if it was getting Deshaun Watson. Maybe they would oblige for Matt Ryan. But even if you think Garoppolo is better than Baker Mayfield is younger, Baker Mayfield is cheaper,
Yeah.
and Baker Mayfield also is a 1-year rental for Cleveland because they have not
Yeah.
paid him. So they can just
Right.
get him off the books in 2023 and move on, and without having to, give up a second or third or fourth. I mean, I'm throwing random mid-round picks out there
Yeah.
for Jimmy Garoppolo. So making sense of this entire situation to me, I'm flabbergasted, honestly.
Hold on. So what you're
did
telling me
not
is that
expect this.
Matt Ryan is going to go where the Niners thought they were going to send Jimmy Garoppolo, and then
He could.
if the Niners are thinking, oh well, Cleveland will be the next spot, it's possible that Cleveland won't be in the market for a quarterback. That they'd actually just rather just keep
Right?
Baker, and that makes total sense. So again, the Niners, would you say they overplayed their hand? They held on too long. That's another reason they held on too long. Yeah.
I think they overplayed their hand because I think they because his market, if you look at the way the national media has been talking about it, the insiders, his market was the hottest in that sweet spot window. They were saying, oh, Saints are in on Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, James Palmer reported a couple days ago that if it's not Watson, it'll be Jameis Winston in New Orleans. So the Saints are not in on Jimmy Garoppolo. Matt Barrows climaxed all of this 2 days ago by saying it's the Colts and only the Colts for Jimmy Garoppolo. So in an article for The Athletic.
It's starting to look like nobody then. If Matt Ryan goes to Indianapolis.
When you look at the situation, his sweet spot window, it seemed his value was highest then. And you could say maybe the 49ers looked at it and said, oh, his value is high. Let's keep stringing this along. His value is going to get higher. Next thing you know, the variables change because now Watson's involved. Watson gets Atlanta involved, meaning Matt Ryan's a possible player to move. And here we are.
And it's not – the Niners didn't understand the ramifications of Watson being cleared. They did not get that because all of a sudden every single team, as you pointed out, is interested. Teams like Atlanta and
top 5 quarterback.
I don't think the Niners anticipated Matt Ryan being, they were playing hardball with the Colts, being like, who are you going to go for? Marcus Mariota? What are you going to do?
I think it's the same thing. The Steelers, same thing. They tried to call the Steelers bluff, and it looks like Pittsburgh just said, okay, we're going to take Mitchell Trubisky. We're going to go draft a quarterback, right? Everybody says they're smitten with Malik Willis, and they're moving on because – and Grant, this is the biggest problem, I think. And, I was looking back at the Alex Smith Mahomes situation because everybody wants to compare it to that. Alex Smith was traded in January of 2018. Think about that.
Yeah.
He was traded in January.
Right off the bat. Yeah.
So he was traded in January, and the Chiefs cleared their money, cleared their books. And the first day of free agency, if you remember, Sammy Watkins was a big free agent signing for them.
They didn't mess around.
He didn't help them win the Super Bowl, but that was a massive sweepstakes
Yes.
that they ended up going and winning because they felt like, okay, now's our chance with Mahomes. We got to get aggressive and go all in. And so when you look at that situation like that, the other variable to me was that Washington extended Alex Smith, meaning I think Washington looked at Alex Smith as a short-term answer at quarterback. I think most teams look at Garoppolo with 1 year left on his contract as a 1 year rental until they pivot to what their next quarterback move is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It seems to be that way. It seemed that Pittsburgh viewed him as, somebody that you could get for maybe a second or third round pick, be respectable with him because he is a starting quarterback. You can win with him with a strong defense and run game. They fixed their offensive line this offseason. Their defense is still very good. Najee Harris had a pretty good rookie season. You can win with Garoppolo before you ultimately go to whatever your long-term future is at quarterback. Because Garoppolo would have a lot more value to me if teams viewed him as a you're going to come in, we're going to extend you, and you're going to be your quarterback for the next 3 years.
What I want to say real quick before you keep going on is the Niners are holding out for these 2 second-round picks because they got him for Alex Smith. And they must think that they can do it again. Jed must thinks they can do it. And what you're laying out is the difference between the situations.
Yeah.
The markets, the situations, the quarterbacks. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, Grant, I for the life of me, I think I'm a pretty smart person. I think I can usually make sense of, situations. I, for the life of me, cannot understand what the Niners are doing. And I cannot understand for the life of me why everybody is so contented with the fact that they have not been able to clear $25.5 million off the cap. $25.5 million, Grant.
It's outrageous. And again, when this team went to the Super Bowl, they made all-in moves. They went Dee Ford, Quan Alexander, and then Emmanuel Sanders midseason, and that got them in the Super Bowl. Then the next season was the Run It Back tour. That didn't work. And then this last year, they didn't go all in because they either could have surrounded Jimmy Garoppolo with more or Trey Lance with more, and they didn't do either one, and they didn't make the Super Bowl. So Niner fans, you should want the final push. It's required. Other teams are making it.
That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Again, I cannot reiterate enough. This roster isn't 2 years away. It isn't 3 years away. They're 2-3 plays away.
Yeah. Kent says, sorry, Vish, Jimmy Garoppolo will be the Niners quarterback next year. Ugh.
No, I don't think so. But I think we're all in for. I'd be pleasantly surprised. I'll eat my L the way Jameis Winston ate the dub after New Orleans won. But I'd be pleasantly surprised if they get a very, very, very good return and making all of this weight and not being able to clear the money worth it.
That Niner guy says, Vish, I think the reason why Jimmy wasn't traded because I feel he wanted a massive extension no team would give him. Jeez. You think so? I don't know. I don't know about that.
I don't understand what Jimmy's extension would have to do with him being traded. His no trade. Here's the other thing with his no trade clause, right? I don't know if he's vetoing trades or not. I'm assuming because the rumor was with Washington that he said no. That's what people are saying he is. But his no trade clause is not a variable in this at all. His no trade clause expires when the new league year starts. These trades, Russell Wilson trade, you know why they announced it only 2 days ago, even though we knew about it a week ago? Because the trade only gets processed when the new year starts. So the Niners going to send him anywhere because his no trade clause expires by the time the trade gets processed.
Keith says Vish is cooking. This is an example of the fan base not being in with the front office. I thought us trading those picks meant we'd make big moves in free agency for a few years while we have a rookie quarterback. Apparently not. It's a big mistake. We're just getting started. Vish is just getting started. He's just giving you the appetizer so far. Don't worry. Keith, we're coming with more. Isaac says Kupp, Robinson, Higbee, or Debo, Ayuk, Kittle.
I'd still probably take Debo, Ayuk, Kittle.
If Kittle's healthy. All right, let's move on. We've been talking about it, but this is why the 49ers need to go all in. I think a lot of Niner fans think that's not the smart thing to do. What you do is you make yourself a playoff team and you continue to be judicious and prudent with your spending. Forget that. What's worked the last few years, the Rams made a big push to win the Super Bowl. Niner fans were like, oh, that's not going to work. Good luck. You just mortgaged your future. Who cares they have a Super Bowl? Same with the Bucs.
I heard they won't be good this year.
Right. Yeah. That's just bogus. It seems like you got to make the all-in push to win the Super Bowl. They're right there, and they could still do it. There's guys like,
Or,
there's guys who Zadarius Smith still available, Fletcher
yes,
Cox,
there's players that would put them over
Stephon
the
Gilmore.
top. And the thing is, and
Yeah,
the other misnomer with this is that, oh, the 49ers don't do business like that. They're not aggressive. What regime have
2019,
you? They have been aggressive under every
2019.
time they have assets to spend. Did they not trade 3 first-round picks to go get a quarterback? Did they
They
not
did.
pay for Trent Williams? Did
They
I
did.
not just talk about Quan Alexander, Jerick McKinnon,
D Ford was a
Kyle
big
Juszczyk,
move.
D Ford, Emmanuel Sanders? When they have money to spend, they are aggressive and they do go all in. Reason people think they don't is because, one, they're not maybe as aggressive as the Rams, and two, their moves haven't worked out as much as the Rams, right? Like Quan Alexander, even though you can argue it had its benefits, and from signing him, right, he unlocked Fred Warner's personality. That's what he says. He
Yeah,
brought a swag to the defense. You also did not sign a 24-year-old linebacker so you could trade him for, what did they trade him for? A conditional fourth to New Orleans in a year. You did
yeah,
not sign Quan Alexander to do that. You didn't sign D Ford to play what? Even though D Ford in some ways he helped you get to the Super Bowl in 2019, you didn't sign D Ford. So like the moves in general and have not worked out maybe as much as they wanted to, but this team has made a lot of aggressive moves. They made a lot of big moves. So this idea that they aren't aggressive when they have assets to spend, like, oh, if they had that 25 point, my favorite argument I've heard this week is the 25, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't preventing them from signing anybody else. If they wanted
I've
to
heard that a
sign
lot.
anybody, they could just restructure this guy, extend this guy. Well, do you know the cost of doing those roster, and you know how much that complicates things if you're doing those roster and cap
Yeah,
gymnastics? Because here's the thing. Let's say you take a player like Samson Ebukam and you extend him, right? You extend him to clear cap space. You're extending a player who really gave you 6 games of production last year, because Samson Ebukam struggled for the first 8 or 9 games adjusting to playing as a true defensive end, which is
yeah,
something he had not done thus far
yeah.
in his career. Is it worth doing that? Because a year from now, if something goes wrong, like, you would be hurting and it would be illogical in a lot of cases, and it would be a long-term mismanagement of your assets to be able to do all of those things to sign a player when you have a clear avenue, one, for $25.5 million, right, if you trade him, and even for $17.2 million if you cut him. So it would be like, I that argument just blows my mind
Yeah.
when people say, oh, it's not preventing them from making moves. Hell yeah, it's preventing them from making moves. Because I promise, if they had $25.5 million, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan aren't going to sit on their thumbs. They're going to go
No.
spend it because that's their MO.
Yes. No, I totally agree. So yes, the Niners need to go all in. They would go all in if they had the space. They don't have the space because they're holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo. We have to assess blame. Whose fault is it that Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the team? And I think it begins with John Lynch. This is how I see it. John Lynch is the main reason Jimmy's here. John Lynch is a supreme competitor. He's one of the few in this organization. Not one of the few. I mean, Debo is, Kyle is. John Lynch is on the level of Jerry Rice, just in terms of competitor. He's a Hall of Famer, and he doesn't want to lose on this. Losing is, in his mind, trading Jimmy Garoppolo for less than he's worth. He believes in Jimmy Garoppolo. He sees Jimmy Garoppolo the way the players in that locker room see him. He was the savior. He is a leader, and he has gotten his ego tied up in this whole thing to the point where he can't see the big picture anymore. He can't see that losing the battle of Jimmy Garoppolo allows him to win the war. Him chasing this victory with Jimmy is just cost him a Super Bowl appearance, and it could cost him another one this year. As we said earlier in the show, had he just committed to one quarterback, they probably would have won the Super Bowl last year, or at least gone to it. But the fact that they couldn't make up their mind, and he's still like chasing this trade, which is not going to happen for these two second round picks, is really hurting the franchise. He needs to see that losing this battle wins the war, and he can't do it. And ultimately, that's the owner's fault for not stepping in. Eddie Wood, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but let's just talk about John Lynch here. I think his competitive nature, which is great, is getting in the way in this one particular way. What do you think?
I mean,
You don't have
it's
to agree with
difficult to
me.
actually. Yeah, it's difficult to attribute it to one person, right? Because so much of this discussion is conjecture and speculation. I think the point that they haven't traded him before the start of the new league year is something that's frustrating. There's no other way to say it, right? It's frustrating because, again, I for the life of me cannot understand why people are so defensive when I bring that up. Like $25.5 million.
I know. The reason I'm putting this
$25.5
on
million.
Lynch, he's the general manager. This is his job. Whether or not he has final say, it's his job, it's his resume. And he's been on record as the guy who brought in Jimmy Garoppolo. Kyle Shanahan was sick for a few days. This is his responsibility, and he is not asleep at the wheel. I mean, it's like the Moby Dick thing. This is his white whale. He is chasing this whale at the detriment of his ship, his mission. He's off on a tangent here. You're not helping your team get over the hump by chasing these 2 second-round picks, as you've laid out.
Do you think they're going to get him at this point? Because right now it looks like the market is
No.
getting drier and drier.
But he would rather
that's what I don't understand.
He'd rather keep chasing and avoid the loss than take the loss. He doesn't want to take the L. He's a Hall of Famer. He won't take the L.
What it is. I don't know what it is. And I as a 49ers fan, because that's what I am. I'm a fan. I'm a fan first. I cannot for the life of me understand why people aren't looking at this team and saying they're 3 plays away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Okay. I want to talk about Jed York now. I want to talk about Jed York now because what I see is John Lynch is caught up in a personal battle that's very much about his pride and ego. And so there's a leadership vacuum here. Jimmy shouldn't be on this team. And the owner should step in. Like, this was before your time, but Eddie was a take charge, hands-on guy. Like, Jed is very hands-off. People got upset with him 10 years ago, but he really doesn't do anything anymore. Eddie would step in. Eddie would take it. It's my team. We're going to do this, X, Y, Z. He would be the leader here. And I feel like the Niners not going all in right now is a symptom of Jed. His hands-offness. He is before he came to this team, he was a financial analyst. He is not built like Eddie DeBartolo. Eddie DeBartolo was as competitive as John Lynch, Jerry Rice, Bill Walsh. I mean, to a fault at times. And when the last time the Niners won a Super Bowl, it was Eddie putting all the chips in the table along with his guys, McVay and in the front office, and getting all Deion Sanders, Ken Norton. The list goes on and on. That's how the Niners won their last Super Bowl. Eddie was very much at the center of it, saying enough of losing with to the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Enough of being one of the best teams in the league. Let's go win it. That's how they did it. And I just don't see that in Jed. And until he channels that side of his DNA, the Niners are going to be content being one of the best teams in the league, which is too bad. That's how I read it. Jed.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a fair way to look at it. I just, I haven't interacted with any of these people, so it's tough for me to get a read on it. It could be that, it really could, and if it's that, it kind of sucks because this team is 3 or 4 plays. I don't think people understand how close they are, and the gravity of it, right? Like, look at what Buffalo is doing. Buffalo has 1 more year of Josh Allen before he at, a reasonably cost-controlled contract. And they understand that they were 13 seconds away from going to the AFC Championship game. And in my opinion, Buffalo and Kansas City last year were the 2 best teams in the NFL. I thought.
I'm just saying, if Eddie were the owner right here, he would have the urgency you're exemplifying right now. He would say, we're 2-3 plays away. Guys, the goal of the organization is to win the Super Bowl this year, make it happen. But Jed is more like, hey, we're doing things right. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. That's the difference between them.
I mean, yeah, again, $25.5 million, Grant. I cannot get past that number, $25.5 million. And my question is, and I understand, like, I keep going back.
How can you be the best team in the league when you're wasting that much money? How? That's my question.
Yes.
How can you be the best team in the league when you're wasting that money?
I'm asking the same question, Grant. And it goes back to, right, you said this is a symptom of Jed York, right? And if it is, again, there's no other way to say it because I'm just a fan. It sucks. Because the thing is, and this is a question I always ask, right? If they keep Garoppolo for another 2 weeks and they ultimately trade him, will that compensation be worth the wait? Is my question.
That's a great
because
question.
If it's a day 3 pick, what do you think?
No, absolutely not.
If they get a
even if it's a
fifth-round
day
pick for
2 pick,
Garoppolo,
even if it's a 3rd round pick, like great. The only good player you've ever drafted in round 3 is Fred Warner. And then look at the cost of getting that 3rd round pick. You had to basically take yourself out of the market.
Even if it's a 3rd round pick, it's not. What do you mean?
Yeah,
No,
not
Carson
a
Wentz
3rd round
went
pick.
for 2 third-round picks, and he had a hell of a lot worse contract than Garoppolo and play that was even worse over the last 2 years. There's no way you can convince me a 3rd-round pick is that worth it.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So let's answer some questions, and then we have a couple more topics. Voice ad agency says, I would trade Jimmy for a Happy Meal right now, even if it didn't have the toy clear that damn space.
Me too.
They still make Happy Meals? I didn't know that. I haven't had a Happy Meal in a long time.
Yeah.
What is in the Happy Meal? Like a double cheeseburger or regular?
I don't know. I don't. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat Happy Meals.
Oh, there you go. Nathan says, I don't know. With Banana Hands and Lynch, I don't know what the hell Banana Hands and Lynch are doing. Why is Jimmy 2 picks still here? Heard rumors Vegas was making a strong push for Gilmore. Man, I admire Vegas what they're doing. That Raiders team is not messing around.
Yeah.
The Niners are the last team that like really takes the salary cap seriously. Everyone else is like, nah, we'll figure it out. Niners are like,
yeah.
Can't afford it, even though we're worth $4 billion. Connor says, is it possible they have a big free agent signing on hold, just waiting for the Jimmy tree to go through, i.e. Matthew, Gilmore, etc.? I mean, that would be great. I don't think so.
I mean, it would make sense, right? But I also...
That'd be wonderful.
I don't know. I don't understand Gilmore at this point, right? Because they just paid Ward. And they already have a very good cornerback on their roster who I would not understand having him not start. You extended Emmanuel Mosley last year. He played unbelievable when he was healthy last year. Why would you'd
rather go after a D end? You'd rather go after a D end?
To me, the pass rusher is now what's going to change it, right? Because you kind of got in a corner. I would draft another one with one of your abundance of 3rd round picks because you know they keep getting a lot of 3rd round picks thanks to people getting hired like Martin Mayhew and Saleh and D'Amico Ryans. They'll get some more because D'Amico Ryans is certainly going to be a head coach very soon, especially with the way he's kicking ass. So, I don't understand it.
David says, what if they have signings ready to go but don't want to say anything until they trade? This is the 49ers fan fantasy.
But who would it be? Who would it be?
What person is just like, oh, the Niners want me, but I got to wait 2 weeks before they trade Jimmy, and they might not trade Jimmy, and then I'd be screwed. Who's going to wait around for the Niners like that? You trust the Niners? Anything could happen. Doesn't work that way, I don't think. Jerry says we desperately need a right tackle. Collins can't have Trey's first year as a starter running for his life. If the Niners don't sign the right tackle, they've got to draft one in round 2.
That's the other thing, right? Like this roster, even though we've talked ad nauseum throughout this show, it's a Super Bowl roster, all of that. They still have a couple of holes that they need to fix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The right side of the offensive line currently is a question mark.
Yes.
In my opinion, the best move at left guard is draft another guard in the middle rounds and have him come in and compete with Aaron Banks, because again, you have to trust your drafted development and be cost effective at certain areas. So to me, that's the best move there. But the right side of the offensive line, because of the seriousness of McGlinchey's injury, is still a question mark. Who's going to start at safety next to Jimmy Ward is still a question mark. If K'Wan Williams, the reports are true that the Niners will not be bringing him back, who's going to replace him as their nickel is a big question mark, in my opinion. So it's not like this roster is just totally set in stone today, right? Like people are acting like, well, they could keep Garoppolo. They have no moves to make. They're the best roster in the NFL. And they did it with, it's like when people finish their tests early, like, oh, you took the entire time, you took all 45 minutes to take the test, but I got 100% and I took 30 minutes and left 15 minutes to do whatever to take the test. That's what this is like. Oh, our roster is perfect. It's set in stone. We need nothing. We'll sign a couple of special teamers. We'll sign a corner. Oh, now we signed the corner. We're good to go. And we have $25.5 million just here. You can do what you want with that. 12.7% of the cap. I mean, NFL, why do you guys take all your cap? We only need 87.3% of our cap to build the best roster.
We're that much better than the rest of the league. They're light years beyond the rest of the league. Light years. Official BNA Music 88 says the Niners went all in on special teams. It will help with field position plus no punt return TD since 2011 or kick return TD
Yeah,
since
the
2018.
returner they got has 11
Has
fumbles in 4 years.
and 0 touchdowns. And his longest return last year was like 40 yards. So
I'm
is
actually
he
more
even that
excited.
good? I mean,
Yeah, I'm more excited for Ray McCloud in this offense. I
yeah.
think as a gadget guy in this offense, I think Ray
Yeah.
McCloud is going to kick some butt. Like I'm not unopposed to the signing, but this idea that he's just going to change their game as a returner the way Ted Ginn did. This isn't Devin Hester. This isn't Ted Ginn. And the
not even
four
Cordell
fumbles
Patterson.
last year, actually, the 4 fumbles last year is actually, I mean, Cordell Patterson might be the greatest kick returner in NFL history after Devin Hester. He's got numbers like that. So, and the 4 fumbles last year to me is actually extremely concerning. I don't know why it's not being talked about enough for a team that's historically conservative on special teams and looking for returners to not turn the ball over. Hence why Mo Sanu was catching fair catches for them at a point last year, and Trent Taylor returned punts for 3 years because he was excellent at catching them.
The first time he muffs a punt in practice, they bench him. In practice. OP, $5. Thank you very much. James Hennessy says a rookie quarterback contract should give urgency. Yeah, I think so. But the Niners are operating like it's 2007, putting him on the 3-year wait plan. Kent says we're getting compared to the Cowboys, Grant, the NFL laughing their asses off too. If not for the owner, it would unlock the franchise. Yeah, the thing with Jed, though, is he's insecure and he wants to be like Eddie. So shame him. We all need to shame Eddie into doing the right thing because he might. I mean, excuse me, not Eddie. Jed. We have to put the pressure on him because he's not going anywhere. He's like, he's not going anywhere. So you got to put the pressure on him. Use, shame, those, schoolyard tactics.
Exactly. And then some people in the comment section are thinking that I'm saying Ray McCloud is a bad player. I'm not saying bad. I'm just saying the fumbles are concerning. 11 fumbles in 4 years. What do you want me to tell you? It's a statistic. It's a fact.
I think with the Niners need someone to run that end around now that Deebo Samuel's a full-time running back. Sorry, Deebo. Yeah.
I think he's going to kick ass on offense. On special teams, the fumbles, given, again, the conservatism in the fact that they don't want their special teams turning the ball over, that I don't think it's just a perfect, just Ray McCloud comes in, the synergy is perfect. Because if he fumbles, Kyle Shanahan will blow a gasket.
And honestly, if they had the game on the line and it was a close game in the fourth quarter and there was a punt return, they should just let Deebo do it every time. He's your best player. So great. But they should just let Deebo do it anytime they have a problem because he has that Michael Jordan, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana competitive nature. Like he literally almost dragged the Niners to the Super Bowl last year, but they didn't empower him at the end. Innovative Energy says, Elvish, nice do, bud. If we don't get solid vet additions to this team through free agency, count on this season being a letdown. Cut Jimmy Garoppolo, B-Wags, or Gilly. Have the Niners gotten better this offseason?
I don't know if you could say that, honestly.
They're about the same. I mean, J-Rod 5 says Jimmy is like the BMW of cars, good looking, but sucks and is expensive to have. Never had a BMW.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going off the car analogy, I think a lot of people here, I've been on Twitter Spaces. I've been a frequent of Twitter Spaces the last 3 days, ranting daily. The funny thing is, I actually did make a car comparison to Garoppolo right now. The Niners are a team that, has a house payment due. And instead of selling the Lamborghini that they just have sitting inside, they're, cutting down how much they're eating. They're cutting. Everybody's like, wait. You don't need to sell the Lamborghini. Just buy a couple less meals. Just buy, a couple less cleaning materials. Just buy a couple less of your needs, and you could still get your house payment in, right?
And we're like, hey man, sell the Lambo, and they're like, what is the Lambo? How is this the Lambo's fault? The Lambo has been nothing but a good sport about the whole thing.
But that's the concept of saying Garoppolo isn't preventing them from making any moves. If they really wanted a guy, they could go sign him. Does that make sense? Because when you're making that type of decision, you have to factor in, is the roster / cap gymnastics worth signing the player? And if you don't feel for the long term of your future, getting Chandler Jones, but doing it by extending 2 different guys and restructuring a third is worth it, then you don't get Chandler Jones. Wait, but what if you could just pay Chandler Jones outright when you had the money available? I mean, this just doesn't make sense to me.
Jimmy's like, hold on. Jimmy's like a Lambo with like a Fiat engine, though. Like it's not going more than
My point
60
is that
miles an
you
hour.
just have a clear way
Yeah.
to clear the money, and you're talking about, doing all these other things when there's a very
Sorry.
obvious way that you could make the house payment.
I just got obsessed with that comparison for a second. I liked it a lot. He is a Lambo. Because good looking, expensive, but really can't go more than 45 miles an hour. It's like, dude, can we get into fourth gear? No, I don't do that anymore. I had a bad experience one time in Miami at
Oh,
the
you
Super
took it to the
Bowl.
next level.
Yeah, we don't go fast anymore. We go
Yeah,
really
I
slow
wasn't even
now.
talking
It's
about
like
Garoppolo as a player.
it's like
I
Jimmy,
was
you
just
don't
talking
even
about
you don't even go on the freeway anymore. Why do we have this Lambo?
I was just
Sorry.
talking about the fact that you have this golden asset
No, I
to
know.
clear money, and you're just
I
not
got
using
distracted.
it.
Someone said Jimmy's a Kia Sorrento. Helix 27 says, is it possible to trade Jimmy by switching a 3 or 4 round pick and that team cut him to avoid that $7 million hole? Yeah, man, can't. But no, but then that team would get the $7.5 million, right? If you trade for him and cut him, then that team has
I'm
to
not
pay.
exactly sure.
I think so.
There's a lot of complicated things. I don't pretend to understand the salary cap as much as
Me neither.
other people.
No, I
Yeah, there's
pretend
a
to
lot of
understand it.
complicated nuances with it that unless I am sure about, I don't want to say anything definitive.
All right, I just got one more topic. The Niners have splurged in the past. We've talked about D Ford, Quan Alexander, but there's something that they love to do. They love to make some very small position, some player at a very insignificant position, the highest paid player in the league. They did it with Kyle Juszczyk. They kind of just did it with Ray McCloud. Like, we are going to spend a lot of money on a returner. Like, oh! So when the Niners splurge, it's often like, well, we have the highest paid fullback in the league. We have the highest paid. We really take returners seriously. Like, yeah, you guys spare no expense. I don't know. When they signed Ray McCloud last night, I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Like, that's what you do the same day the Rams
See,
get
do you
Allen
look at
Robinson?
him as a returner? Because I look at Ray McCloud as a real contributor on offense, like the way
Dude,
that Isaiah McKenzie maybe is for the Bills. The
okay,
returning part of it to me is a little bit moot because again, the
okay,
fumbles concern me when it comes to the return aspect of this.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
I think he's a genuine contributor on offense, Ray McCloud, with his
Wow.
speed, his explosion,
To
and
do
Shanahan's
what? To be
creativity.
like a ball carrier? Not to catch passes.
Why not? He
Can
can
he?
enhance the screen game. Yeah.
Screens, okay, screens and extended handoffs and end
There's
arounds
a
and stuff.
lot of
Yeah,
things
yeah,
you
yeah.
can do with him.
He's not a deep threat though, is he?
I think he could be. Like the thing is, great because you're looking at Ray McCloud right now as Ray McCloud. You got to look at Ray McCloud and envision how Shanahan would use a player like that.
That's true. I mean, I've seen him
I
run
think
end arounds and stuff. So yeah, I can see that.
so. Yeah, I think he would be a contributor on offense, but the returner aspect of it again.
I have a
4
prediction.
fumbles last year.
I
Is
have a
scary.
prediction. I have a prediction. Ray McCloud is going to get rave reviews in training camp. He's going to get the Trent Sherfield treatment. Oh my, this guy is a phenomenal wide receiver. No one knew. Marquise Goodwin before him. He's going to be the guy that everyone's like, Pittsburgh didn't know what they had. This guy's going to have 1,000 yards. Bet you.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
I
I wouldn't be shocked by that. But yeah, so and going off of this topic, the interesting thing when they do splurge, because you took it a different avenue than what I think of when they splurge, right? You talked about how you think they spend on insignificant positions. I think they have this kind of creative thing of everybody obviously looks at 2 or 3 players as the best players in that position, and
Yeah.
they pay a lot of money for the 4th guy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Like
Yeah.
everybody looked at CJ Mosley as the best linebacker in that free agency right now. And that CJ Mosley has not worked out for the Jets. So I'm not saying they
No.
should have signed CJ Mosley, but they went and paid a lot of money for Quan Alexander.
Right.
Andrew
And they
Norwell
kind of said it's like, well, that wasn't as big of an overpay as Mosley was. So he's
right.
not as good as
Andrew
Mosley, but he's a
Norwell was
better
the big
right.
offensive lineman in that free
Who?
agency. Andrew Norwell from
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
Panthers. The
Yes.
Jags signed him. They were in on him, and then they signed Weston Richburg, who had a massive concussion history that
Yes.
scared the Giants away from re-signing him because he was a steady and good player with the Giants.
He was.
The running back market, they looked at Jake McKinnon as this like secret diamond in the rough that nobody's ever seen, and they were gonna, feature him in their offense. Sometimes I feel like it's a little symptom of we think we're smarter than everybody, so we see this guy as good as these players, even though you don't see it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I think Charvarius Ward is a really good player. First of all, I want to get that. I think he's a really good player. Is he worth being paid $14 million a year? I want to see the details of his contract. I've been unable to see that yet, but to me, this is on the team. Excuse me, it's follows the same theme because Ward might be a really good corner, but is he worth being, paid close to what like a Marlon Humphrey is being paid, or close to what what those kinds of corners are being paid? And to me, that's where the
No.
topic gets interesting, because I think the
Yeah.
Niners right now have unbelievable value already at the quarterback position. Because to me, Emmanuel Mosley is worth much more than what he's paid.
I'm like, yo, Parag, take the money you just spent on Ray McLeod and Travarius Ward and send that to JC Jackson. Like, really? Come on. Can you just go get the number one player at a premium position for once? Is it that dangerous? Is it really going to ruin everything? Are the Chargers
I would have
screwed
done
because
anything.
they got? I don't get it, man.
Yeah,
Travarius Ward, good player.
I mean, I understand it. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. Is
just
Kansas City tripping that they lost him? No.
No. Well, they went and got the best safety, or the second best safety on the market after
Justin
Marcus
Reed?
Williams. Yeah,
Who?
that's going to
Justin
change their
Reed?
defense. Yes. And for
Yes.
anybody, I don't understand the Tyrann Mathieu hype as much as people, because I thought Mathieu limited their defense a little bit because he's lost some athleticism and he's not as good in terms of filling in the run game. I think Mathieu is at this point a little more a name. I think he still does a lot of things really well, but I think there's a reason Kansas City went and got Justin Reed. Justin Reed's going to change their defense.
Yeah, and he's roughly getting the same amount as Ward. He's a little cheaper than Ward, but it's interesting. I mean, again, the Niners took a Kansas City Chief reject, someone that they were cool letting go of. And also, there's some parallels with D Ford. D Ford had a great year, had a great career with Kansas City, but that last game, he ended their season, right? It was his fault. They got the pick, he was offside, and they just couldn't see him. And he'd be like, you got to go. With Ward, same thing, right? Great season.
Yeah.
But the last game, he just gets absolutely destroyed by Jamar Chase. Not the first person.
No, he played okay. But they changed up how they played coverage. They tried to press man Jamar Chase with Ward and all those guys the first time they played him. And Jamar Chase had maybe the single greatest game a rookie receiver has ever had.
Well, look, all I know is that when I try to get pictures on this USA Today picture database of Travarius Ward, it's just picture after picture after picture of him getting beat by Jamar Chase. So I don't know if it's one catch from like 80 different. I was like, dude, whoa, again? I'm just trying to get a picture of you standing around. Yeah.
The first game in Cincinnati, that's what happened. But Jamar Chase was doing that to their entire secondary. But the point is, to me, Kansas City, they got better with Justin Reed in their secondary, because I said I think Mathieu is diminished right now. When Mathieu first signed with Kansas City, he was still playing like the Hall of Fame player that he's going to end up being. And he changed their defense originally because Spags would be able to be really creative, because Matthew's movement and instincts was unreal.
Spags.
And now just in that same way, I think Justin Reed is going to change their defense. And, Steven Nelson got paid playing corner when they played defense that way. So there's other names that have been paid,
So real quick, are you saying the Niners should have signed Justin Reed instead of Charvarius Ward? I mean, they do need a starting safety.
I don't know if I would say that outright. I think they could have maybe signed both of them.
There you go. How about both? Oh, but that's impossible because Jimmy Garoppolo's on the team. But they didn't want Justin Reed anyway. They're fine having a gaping hole at strong safety. That's okay. That's part of the plan.
There's a lot of things again that just aren't making sense to me
about
this.
You're telling me K1's not coming back? I didn't know that. So what's the plan in nickel?
Well, that's what was reported, right? Eric Branch said it after they signed Charvarius Ward. Looks like he's not coming back, and people are saying, and Matt Barrow said it might be where Emmanuel Mosley kicks inside on third downs, which is fine. But they play nickel defense a lot more than just on third downs, because most offenses in the NFL are three receiver offenses.
That's right.
And whether somebody can do what K'Wan Williams does in the run game remains a question mark, because that's where I don't think a lot of people understand how good K'Wan Williams, like Rondé Barber was the first nickel where he would basically fill in the run game like a Sam linebacker.
Yes.
C, D gap pullers, he's gonna do it. He's gonna be able to take on bigger bodies. He's really instinctive. He goes and finds the football, and he's a really clean tackler. K'Wan Williams is like that in the run game. To me, he's the best nickel in all of football in the run game. Are there some limitations to him in coverage? Yes, but the Niners' run defense, part of it being so good, especially these teams that want to stretch outside, is because they have a 5'8", 185-pound nickel who feels like a 245-pound linebacker.
He's
an unbelievable player in the run game.
Honestly, I think he's a more vicious hitter than either of the safeties.
Maybe, honestly. Yeah, and he's got a nose for it, and that's where Emmanuel Mosley, in the show, I've talked about, right? I think Emmanuel Mosley is a fantastic player. Can he replace that aspect of K'Wan Williams? To me, that is a question mark because that's not a skill that I think every player has.
Mosley gets banged up. I mean, so does K'Wan, but I don't know. Mosley gets banged up playing on the outside.
So there's still holes, right, in this roster. I mean, I don't know. They just seem to do this thing where they splurge on, the second or the third player. I guess, I mean, their free agent signings outside of Trent Williams, I don't know if, and Kyle Juszczyk, who were both, because funnily enough, the best players at their position.
I want to say something real quick. Because a lot of people watching us dig what we do and are on the same wavelength. But there's people on Twitter that necessarily don't watch us that are like, the other side of this, of the Niner fandom right now is like, why are you complaining? Like, why don't you go root for the Rams? What we're trying to do is get the Niners a Super Bowl. We're actually trying to help.
Worse. That's the other one I heard. The NFC is getting worse. Well, I mean, I want them to win a Super Bowl. I'm a fan, right?
I want them to win a Super Bowl too. I'm quality control. My resume's on the line here. I'm trying to help. So we're doing it in a good spirit. The fact that the Niners are doing nothing essentially and bothers us.
And people, the NFC is getting worse is my favorite one. Why are you whining? The NFC is getting worse. Well, do you know to win the Super Bowl you have to beat a team from the AFC? Do you think the 49ers are better top to bottom than Buffalo right now? Especially after Buffalo got Von Miller?
No, but a huge segment of the Niner fan base is happy that they made it to the NFC Championship game and lost. Would be happy if they made it to the Super Bowl and lost. Like, that's where they're at. That's, and I think the Niners organization knows it. Like, there's not a big push other than me, you, certain fans saying, go do more. The local media isn't saying do more. A large segment of the fan base isn't saying do more. They're saying keep doing business as usual. At this point, when the local media is justifying the fact that the 49ers have a clear opportunity to clear $25.5 million, like $25.5 million, and that's and they're trying to gaslight you and say that's smart. It's business 101.
Business 101, and that's where I don't get it because I live in Chicago, and I can only imagine what the perception would be if the Bears had an asset like Garoppolo just sitting on their roster at the start of the new league year.
Let me tell you something about Silicon Valley. I feel like the Niners putting themselves there. There is this attitude when you get there. It's like, man, we're the smartest people in the world because we're here. It's like, you really think you're smarter than everyone else? Like, what is it? You're not a tech company. You're not a startup. The team was given to you by your mom. And you worked as a financial analyst for like 2 years. Like, you're not the freaking Steve Jobs that you think you are. But yet the Niners have this attitude. They're like, we're way smarter than the rest of the league and on a lot of things. And I think it's a symptom of being in Silicon Valley. Sorry. I don't live there. I live in Oakland. It grounds you.
Oh my God. The jokes here about my hair are hilarious.
Do you know where you're going to be working next year?
Shower. Huh?
Do you know where you're going to be working next year? Have you been assigned?
No, I'm not sure about location yet. I'm hoping it's not in California.
I'm hoping it's the
first
Bay.
Job, pay that state income tax. Oh.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's the Bay. It might be down south though, right? You could end up
I think
living with Joe Staley. That'd be tight. Sean says,
yeah, it would be. So if I am in California, it's going to be Santa Clara or San Diego. So
it's not San Diego, it's Temecula. Because my mother-in-law works where you would be working. I know I've been to that place. But anyway, if you were to live there, you would live down in Escondido or something. I would say, I already know it. I'll be talking to my wife about it. We already got you. We got you. But if you work in Santa Clara, you'd have a big decision to make. Do you want to live in the South Bay or do you want to live somewhere like Oakland and San Francisco commute? Either way is going to be hell of expensive. So enjoy that. Enjoy that. I just paid taxes yesterday. Dude, I'm sick. California. Wow. Thank you very much. Oh, sick.
I mean, people are loving
I'm
my
sick.
hair right now. I didn't shower. I usually shower like right before we do the shows, and I'll just come in. My hair will like dry through the show. I think I should stop doing it because apparently, my hair is
I used to have hair
is
like that. My hair used to be that curly and that big. Not that long ago. Vish is a college student. When I was in college, I couldn't do anything before noon. So I'm just impressed that he got here. Sean says, would rather have a Jimmy Garoppolo. Hold on. Would rather have a Jimmy Garoppolo as a Land Rover, and that's breakdown. Or, man, you got it. This was like voice to text or something. Hyundai, that's
and cheap Hyundai.
Yeah.
That's lasting
Sorry.
a long time.
I tried. Sean says, Grant, I don't understand. You said they needed to address the secondary and special teams. They did, and he's a great player and uninjured. You bad as my wife. Okay, so here are some 49er fans that feel like Niners are doing what they need to do.
No, in certain aspects of it, we do agree, right? They did address their secondary. They are addressing their special teams. I don't think anybody is poo-pooing that. I think the point is that they can do a little bit more because they have the assets to. And
no, Vish, they're already the best team in the league.
They're not doing it.
They're already the best team in the league. Actually, they technically won the Super Bowl last year. Technically. I mean, they should have. And they should have won it 2 years ago. And that's all that really matters is if you should have won the Super Bowl. The actual ring doesn't matter anymore.
Did you know that? Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I read that. Fish are relaxing, says Ray is 4.5 40. He's not fast. He has good acceleration.
He's explosive as hell.
Zero breakaway speed. That's why he has no TDs. He's caught by punters. Watch the highlight tapes. Yeah, he's
explosive as hell. And honestly, I was watching a little bit of him like way late last night. And he gets in and out of his breaks like pretty efficiently. He's really fluid as a mover, and he's really explosive. I wouldn't be surprised again if there's a bigger role for him in the receiving game as a slot receiver and all of that. He's got some movement to him. Again, if you want me to be on his returning, I cannot get past a returner that has 11 fumbles in 4 years and 4 fumbles last year.
He better play offense. Otherwise, like, where is...
Yeah, I'm more excited personally for his offensive contribution than his contribution as a returner because of the fumbles. The fumbles scare me. I don't know if...
That Niner guy says, hot take, trade for Danielle Hunter. Come on, John.
Yeah. Yes. That's a move that would change things for this franchise in big games against, because Tampa Bay with Brady back, Tampa Bay being able to bring Godwin back, Tampa Bay now trying to get Julio Jones. Tampa Bay is going to be very, 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 very good again next year.
Also, I want to make one point to Homer Niner fans or Homer fans in general that just applaud anything the Niners do. And this goes for journalists too, because the line is getting blurred. Right now, you got a lot of people saying the Niners are good. If they stand pat, they're good offseason. As soon as they make a big swing and do something big, they would praise it. Oh my God, they got JC Jack. They got Chandler. That's great. Super. Anything the Niners do is good. They get a big name player, great. They don't, great. Come on. Can you have some self-awareness that you're just praising everything they freaking do? Now, some people think I attack everything they do. I don't.
That's what somebody said to me. That's what somebody said to me. I actually responded to it on Twitter. Somebody said to me, do you think they don't know what they're doing? And of course they've thought through all this. And my point is that they're not incapable of making mistakes. And that's why you don't have to say that every move they make is perfect or it's correct or it's the best move ever. Franchises are capable of making mistakes. They're human beings too.
And yet a lot of journalist fans out here, their starting point is the 49ers are geniuses. Everything the 49ers do is right. And let me sort of work backwards to figure out how they did their work, that's what they're doing. Well, they signed Ray McCloud. Why did geniuses? What was the thought process? It's kind of like the cult of Billy Bean too. It's like, oh, he did something. Well, it must be smart. Let's figure out why it was smart. Not every time. Not every time. Actually, you can think for yourself. And that's why I'm so proud of Vish. Always proud of Vish. Vish is not in the industry, but Vish really does think for himself. It's never like, oh man, Vish is part of this little clique and they're always kind of thinking together. He's pushing this or he wants to. I'm always interested to hear what Vish has to say because It's not what I think. It's not what anyone else thinks. Vish takes in all the data and has his own perspective, and that is so rare. It is so freaking rare in this medium. So anyway,
I really appreciate that, and
yeah.
I think the same thing could be said about you, and that's where I push back to a lot of people that really get on you, because I think the one thing that you do different from anybody else in the 49ers media space, actually two things. I think one, it's you're totally an independent thinker, right? And you're open about it, right? You're open about the fact that, in
I'll
January
change
you
my
didn't like Trey
mind.
Lance, and
Yeah,
in March Trey Lance
yeah,
was your favorite prospect ever.
yeah.
Like, you're
I don't
open
care.
about like the
Yes.
fact that your thought process is fluid. And then the
Mhm.
second thing is you're always willing to hear disagreements
Yes.
and hear other people tell you that you're wrong, and you're always willing to hear another perspective, which is really rare in my
Yeah.
opinion, because most people just want to hear what people who agree with them and people are
That's
going to
true.
pat them on the back are going to
That's true.
say. And I think that, a lot of 49ers media coverage is just patting them on the back and
Yes.
telling them what they're doing is
Good job.
correct. But I mean, if what would 49ers fans were clowning the Matthew Stafford trade last year because the Rams had $24.7 million of dead cap from
That
Jared
is
Goff.
true.
They were
That is true.
clowning that. And here we are in the new league year. Imagine if the Seahawks, had a quarterback that was a starter, but they clearly had a quarterback for their future, and they still had the guy on their roster, and it felt like, all the spots where that quarterback could go was drying up. Think about the perspective you would have then.
Yeah. Kenyon Willis says respect Vish's sports IQ. He's educating grown men on football. Vish could be a millionaire superstar in this industry. And he's like, nah, not for me. That's the best part about Vish. He's like, I don't even want to do this. I'm just doing this because I'm passionate. And I have to say something. I don't even
I
want
really
to.
like football. Yeah, but yeah, my thing is, my fear is that I would lose fandom and the joy of, watching the 49ers every week if I
feel
actually
it.
had to do it.
It's such an authentic point of view and very unique, and I think it's great. And it works. And it's like, look, I got a job. I got stuff to do, but Niners need to hear this. I know they're listening. Let me just say what I think real quick. And everyone's like, thank you, Vish. Thank you, Vish. Thank you, Vish. I needed to know what I thought of this. And I'm the same way. So, Vish, thanks for giving me an hour of your time. I always appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always really fun to do it. And I always talk about it. It's therapeutic for me too, to just come on here and just be able to talk about everything I've thought about with football for a week, because I love watching football. I'm genuinely passionate about it. Like, in my free time, I like
Yes,
watching football. I like
me too.
reading about like all of this. So it's fun to, just come on and be able to have a medium to express myself. So I really appreciate you for giving me that medium first and foremost.
Sean says, I think true Niner fans want to be more open-minded about this team. Yeah, I think when I was younger, a lot of times if you had an opinion that was contrary to the team, people would just say, oh, so you think you're smarter than the team? And it's just shut down the conversation. Like, I hate that. And what I just want Niner fans to know is, like, you're allowed to think for yourself and still root for the team. You're allowed to disagree with the move they did and still root for the team. You don't have to be a mindless robot.
It doesn't make you less of a fan at all.
No. When are you going to collab with Haberman and John Middlecoff? I've collabed with Haberman before. Soon. I love those guys. I'll reach out. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. I got to bounce, but I'll be back in an hour with Rob, and then I'll be back after that with Sibila. It's March Madness over here.
Loaded day, yeah.
It's March Madness. I'll see you.